Presenting the Brick House Podcast. The Brick House. Here comes the boom.
Hello guys, welcome back to the Brick House Podcast. My name is Matthew Brick, and I'm so excited that you guys are listening in, tuning in to the Brick House Podcast. Today I have a guest here, a really cool guy, a guy that I've actually gotten to know. He goes to Red Rocks Youth along with me. He's a senior over at Lutheran High School, and today throughout this podcast I get to know a little bit more about him, and I'm super excited. And I'm excited for you guys to get to know him and hear a little bit about who he is. So Noah Miller, thank you for being on the Brick House Podcast. I appreciate you. Noah Miller.
Well, thank you for having me on, Matthew. Great to be here. So a little bit more about me. As you said, I'm a senior at Lu High for the next 3 days, and then gonna be out of there hopefully. Some things about me. I am definitely a big follower of God. I love studying His Word and just all the other stuff that comes with it. Big theology study guy, I guess, if you will. And love studying that. Just love learning about all sorts of topics, whether it's science and biology and all that, to finances and just how the financial system here in America works. Love doing art as well. I love doing 3D art, 3D modeling, and just some other stuff like that. And about a good surface level of me.
Yeah, that's a good start. I think what I find when I ask people that question, it's like there's a lot to me, but also there's a lot of like surface level and overarching things. But you said a lot there. And so we could like kind of go in a little of each of those things that you love and do. But I think it'd be cool maybe to start off with the faith part. I think that's we were just talking about this before we hit click on the start button for this episode. But Noah, like as long as I've been going to really church this past year and a half or whatever, I've seen Noah there. He was there with a person who I had on the podcast earlier. So if you want to check out that episode, Dawson Fry, it's a great episode. Definitely recommend. But Noah here, I've seen him a lot, and I've seen you a lot in church, but actually I don't know a lot about your faith. We're in different groups. I'm in the grade 11 boys, and he's in the grade 12 or like senior boys. So yeah, actually, in any way, if you want to kind of like, because actually I've never really heard your story or just like how you came to faith or what faith means to you. So if any, oh wow, I'm struggling here. But if any of those things, just speak about all of them, however you want. There we go. We got it out.
Alrighty, well, guess my faith journey. Always was a Christian growing up. My parents always made sure to put me and my sister through a Christian education, no matter the sacrifices that came with it, which wound up not having nice things, but I would rather have God and that Christian education than going to public school and having these worldly things, especially now. So grew up in a Christian home, Christian education, all the way up through now. And then, I have a sister, and then my dad, and then had my mom till my sophomore year, when she sadly passed away to cancer.
Wow.
So that was a big struggle for me in my faith journey, just asking God, like, why would this happen? Why did she have to go right then? And as I found out from then, actually, kind of what's his name? The the sermon that we were listening to today, that our best events and best life experiences come from the worst of our seasons. Because that's when I reached out to Dawson and I started going to the gym with him, and I got that awesome friendship. And from that, I went to Red Rocks Youth and Red Rocks Church and student leadership this year as well. So while it was the worst thing that happened to me, it's brought so much good in my life.
How could I forget? Oh my goodness. How could I forget? So if you guys are watching right now, if you're not just listening, but as you guys can tell, Noah's jacked, or like he's strong.
Oh, both, yeah.
He's been going to the gym. No, yeah. There's been times where he'll come straight from the gym to youth group, or like, you can't miss a workout.
No,
No.
cannot.
So actually, this would be kind of a cool question, but have you seen how your health, or like, it seems like you prioritize, being in the gym, and there's like all this studies around like how health can actually play out a big role in like your mental health. And I was with someone on last week's episode, but he talked about how like, there's a lot of people that talk about physical health, mental health, but really something to really talk more about and growing is your spiritual health. But how do you find yourself like in your life? Like, how do you balance those things? Because it does seem like fitness and physical health is something that you prioritize.
So with physical health and mental health, there's studies that show that working out and weightlifting and doing all that correlates to how well your mental health is. Which, going back to my faith journey after my mom passed, working out was way better than getting a therapist and just sitting in that emotion, actually going out. And I don't know what it is about it, but just going out and just lifting heavy weights for a couple of days a week just frees up your brain and your mind and just really helps you process all of that. And then I'll even tie it into spiritual journey. There's this movement called, pretty sure it's muscular Christianity, but it was started in the 1800s, I believe. Pretty sure. And it essentially is goes off of the verse that says that our body is a temple for God's Spirit. And it goes off of that, and it's like making your body as strong as it can be and as much of a pleasing place for God's Spirit to dwell in. So that's also a reason why I continue to work out even after over 2 years of doing that.
Yeah, wow. Now, if you guys are watching and you look over to me, and I'm not tearing myself down, but if I'm going to be honest, there's a different type of physique in the room. Yeah, I mean, I wrestle. That's my cardio. That's my physical activity. But actually, me being in the gym and like lifting, something that I could get more into for sure. And there's, if you were to ask different people, obviously you have your way about going through the gym, but there's probably a lot of ways that you could go through the gym, and then there's different ways about going in the gym that target different things and like allow like different ways of growth. But yeah, no, it's fun. Maybe sometime in my life I'll do that.
You should come with me sometime.
Yeah, I probably should. I should get in there a little bit more. So 3 days you said of like senior year, and this kind of ties into my next thing, but like, is there anything that you feel like God calling you into? What are kind of the next steps? Like, because as for some people, they have, like as seniors, some people already have plans of what they're doing. But like very soon you'll be like, I don't know. What does graduating look like for you? What are some things that are like coming up? What are things that you've seen like God kind of like orchestrate, or are there things that you're like you're excited for moving forward? Like explain that to me and like kind of how that's going for you.
Well, right now, graduation uh, looks like just having more free time on my hand or in my grasp, not having to be at school doing my little ceramics class or
Yeah.
doing all that, having to be there, waking up at 6:30 in the morning and all that. Um, yeah, just doing stuff that I want to do, need to do, like reading. And for me, I want to start at least a couple businesses. Like we were talking about when we got lunch earlier. Starting at least 2 YouTube channels. One that's a personal brand, and then one that's works with God and probably business somehow. Somehow incorporating those two together. It's actually what I gave my leadership presentation on this last Thursday, was how we can show God in business, and just all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so doing that, starting businesses. I know at Red Rocks there's that, was it the legacy team?
Yeah.
That I can definitely see myself being a part of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just being super generous with what God has given me in terms of money and all that in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you actually mind explaining to us a little bit of like you did a presentation or some type of like thoughts on like you said like well business and incorporating faith or like yeah, would you mind sharing a little of that with us?
Yeah, so it was over how we can show God in business, whether we are the CEO of that business or running it or just some person that's incorporated in it somehow. Um, but I had three main points that I really covered on, which was God's guidance, stewardship, and then blessings and prosperity. So for God's how we can have God's guidance in business, I used the verse in Proverbs. It was to focus on Him, lean not on our own understanding, and He will make our path straight. Just how we should go about business and finding all the decisions that we should make, and just praying and focusing on Him for all those. And then for stewardship, in Genesis, it says that God made man to be stewards of the earth, to take care of it and do all that. And for business, we should do that with how we spend our resources in it, how we spend our time, our money, and all that, and that we should all have it at some point all focused towards God, whether that's reinvesting in the business so we can impact more people or giving to charity, churches, all that, so that they can then take that and then go and impact people that way. And just all that. And then for the blessings and prosperity piece, it's not the prosperity gospel or anything like that by all means. It's just showing or how we can show the blessings that God has given us to other people and make it about ourselves. Like, oh, look how good I am in business, how profitable it is, how so much, or so on and so on. Pointing it to us, but how we should be pointing it all to God, and that none of it would be possible without Him. And then the verse that I found for that one, it was Malachi 3:10. I'm pretty sure, and it was that we should be giving our tithings and offerings to God, and testing Him and how He will use them, and that He will flood open the or burst open the floodgates of and pour blessings upon us.
Yeah.
And all that we do. And that we should also just be generous with what God has given us, because He calls us to do that as well.
Yeah, we had a series. Did I cut you off? All right. We had a series of it was called Kingdom Builders at our church, not this past week or the last week, but like for a solid like 4 weeks. And it's interesting, like, and I think you were kind of talking on it, and I, well, I'll come back to how I was gonna say it, but I think um, there's something about business. I've never like I took one business class, and it's just something that I, as of right now, do not like. I don't like numbers. I like speaking with people, but besides that, I'm not big on numbers, and I also don't like to sell things. Like I don't want to necessarily get people to buy something. Like that's just not how I roll, I guess. And that, I know that's only one side of business. There's a lot, but it's interesting how like, and it's kind of cool how like you can like, well, so one of the things that I took away from the Kingdom Builders series at our church was that like God doesn't care about your money. He could care less about it, but it's like he wants your heart. And I think at least how I've seen businesses, or not, maybe not even businesses, but like how I know in my own life how I've held on to money. Like I'm very blessed. Like, or like, as far as like a kid who grew up, and I have like, I've never had to worry about another meal or this or that, but like truly blessed. But like I've even find myself like, oh, my money. But like God wants your heart. And I don't know, it's actually interesting in my head while we were talking, I could think about how like honestly, if we were to do more of the things that God actually wanted from us, and like I don't personally necessarily believe you always do what God says. Will God always like kind of like the idea that you give your money, God's now gonna randomly drop a bunch of money on you. He might, but he might not. There's definitely this thought in my head that when you were talking about just like business and all that stuff, like I feel like it would make a business that much more fruitful and just like in abundance. God talks about how he wants to multiply like things for you. He wants you to live in this like joy and like abundance. And so it kind of like inspired me. I'm not gonna lie, like just wanting, like you'll actually start, because like I feel like at least with the faith and the gospel part of things, like you could be some random business, but then you incorporate faith into it. You could be doing like whatever you're doing, but then you could be also reaching people on a whole different level simply because you're also talking about Christ or something like that. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that, or as I was saying anything?
Well, just with that blessings piece that you were covering a little bit, I like the Bible does say that if we can be trusted with little, he can trust us with much. Um, and then to also say money is not a bad thing at all. It's I know a lot of people will misread the part of scripture where it says the love of money is the root of all evil, and they'll misinterpret it and think that money itself is the root of all evil, but it's actually greed and the love of money that leads us down that path of evil and destruction and selfishness and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. I mean it's just so cool, guys. I'm getting to talk with Noah because like we see face to face a lot of times, and we've had I think a few conversations here and there. But this is actually like I'm actually getting to hear more about Noah with you guys. Like I'm in this experience along with you guys. But okay, let's shift it up for just a second. Is there anything you'd want to ask me? You do not have to. No pressure, nothing.
I guess just going back to the first question you asked me, just like your faith journey, because I know
My faith journey. Yeah, okay. So I know I've shared a little bit with you guys, but I'll share with Noah because this is kind of his first time hearing it. But let's see if I can do it in a different way than I've done it before. Or I don't know, Holy Spirit, will you just come and talk through me in this moment? Yeah, kind of in the same regards. Like well, it was honestly for the longest time it was my mother's faith because my biological father passed when I was 2. I have a stepfather now, but I guess like in a lot of ways I could know a lot of head knowledge about God, and like I went to Bible class or like Sunday church every once in a while, but I'm not gonna lie, for the longest time it was just like Christmas and Easter. Um, and then I started finding myself just like with the like normal struggles that anyone goes through, and I just what God, for me, the first like actual reasoning for wanting even God in Christ, because like I said, I knew the knowledge of God. I kind of heard the story of God, and like it wasn't that I believed it, but I do believe there was a part of me and a sense of me that was like, is it real? And I think that's something that we often, even believers now, the people that were closest with Jesus, oftentimes Jesus would do a miracle, and then like literally that same day they would still have doubt. And that's okay. So that's one thing I want us to get across. It's okay to have doubt because it actually prompts faith. But then yeah, so but why even just coming for like what was my reasoning for coming to Jesus is like I said, I was just going through probably things that were probably very normal, but I found myself just getting, at least for me, very anxious. I was struggling with my brothers, and I just like was very frustrated. And I don't want to get too deep in it because it's not my episode today. But I went to Christ out of this hope and desperation that there has to be more. And talking with people, and even through this podcast, I've realized that I am a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. I don't necessarily dream, which is actually kind of interesting. When I say dreamer, I just have these big dreams. I have these big aspirations for my life, and I feel like God has put those there for some reason. And so I was like, in my own mind, like there has to be more purpose than just going to school day in, day out. There has to be more purpose than feeling lonely all the time, and like things that probably other people feel all the time. And I came to Christ, and this past, like, I gave my life to Christ a little more than a year ago, but I've been going to church for about 2 years, and these past 2 years have been like arguably the best years of my life. Not because, like you said it, and like today's, let's see if I have my notes out. But like one thing you were saying just about how like there's the seasons, like sometimes the most, and I can also testify so much to it, but like sometimes the hardest things that we go through, or some of the best moments that we have are through our hardest times. But you might have phrased it better to me. I can tell you this. This is one thing that I really loved when today they said a thing. While you're waiting, God is working. But yeah, life change might happen in hard times, or like sometimes the most like monumental life things that happen to you. Like I can think me getting baptized or me giving my life to Christ. Honestly, we're actually probably in my hardest time because it was me actually out of like, oh Lord, I can't do this anymore. I need you. But yeah, that's a little bit about my faith. And like one thing that I've seen is like God has been opening up doors. Like even today, just this awesome opportunity to talk with you, because, and like that's what I pray more of, and that's what I think this podcast, at least for me, is. It's one outlet of me just like talking and getting to know people. Um, I don't know. Is there anything by me sharing, or has that what comes in your mind now? Because I saw you reaching for your notes.
Yeah. Well, I was reaching for them to see if I could find something while you were still talking, but was not able to. So I'll
That's all good.
just go over the first point that I had. Just like when you were explaining earlier about having that head knowledge of God and just knowing like about the Bible and like what's in the Bible and all that. I've definitely experienced that a whole bunch. Being taught it in school. For the longest time, it felt like a subject in school rather than the relationship that Jesus is calling us into. Up until, I don't want to say like the last couple of years at Lutheran, where we were really challenged of like, do you really believe this, or is it just something that, oh yeah, I believe in it because my parents believe in it and we go to church and all of that, and just covering like all the apologetic pieces helped me to like just gave me that assurance that yeah, this is true compared to like Islam or Buddhism or anything like that. And going off of that, the one really interesting thing is with Christianity is with Islam, you can have Islam without Allah because it's still all that practices and laws and all that. You can have Buddhism without Buddha because it's all those practices, that mindset, all that spirituality stuff. But you can't have Christianity without Christ because unlike those other two, it's not a religion where you follow some rules and behave a certain way. It's a relationship that we have with Jesus. And through that relationship, we get how we act to other people, how we start to think about other people, how we portray ourselves, how we think about other stuff. So that's just what I was thinking of when you were covering that head knowledge piece in your testimony.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. And actually, this kind of now gives me like and you kind of said how it kind of shifted for you, but like that's something that, well, so we both go to private Christian schools, Lutheran, and then Valor for me. But like this is something that I've been, at least for me, I know your time at Lutheran is almost up. But I have like a year and a half left and something, and like I feel like, like your time at Lutheran and like God has so like that's something I'm finding in my own life. Like God is orchestrated and has put me in the time for what I'm meant to do in that time. But like it's definitely something that I've seen that like as my last year and a half at Valor, even though it's no one's like obligation, I feel compelled to want to do it. Like it's not, I guess I'm not obligated, or like there's no one telling me to do this, but I feel highly encouraged, and like as much as I can, I want to create a space and keep like, and that's why in hopes of like maybe creating change, this is one of the reasons why I do the podcast now. I really have seen how God has evolved the podcast, and it's cool because those who've been listening can probably see it, and I'm actually saying it to you guys, but this is one way I feel compelled to like, as much because I hear people all the time, oh, I'm so grateful that I go to Valor, or I can talk openly about our faith, but the truth is no one really does. And I think like you're saying, it can become just like another subject. But I can tell you, at least for me, this year it's really cool what God has done at my school, because there's definitely it's subtle, but it's powerful, and like God has, at least with me, and I've seen it, but like and it's not, has nothing to do with me, but I just have been a part of it. But like I've seen God like, kind of like make it more than just a subject. Now I see people doing Bible studies, or I see people doing prayer. Like one thing that we've been trying to do is every Wednesday morning just pray over people and pray over the school. And we started at 3 people, now it's up to 9 people or something like 9. But like when you got 9 people all praying at the same time, it's a lot different than praying with 3. I mean, it's still awesome, but it's just so it's cool. And I don't know if you want to continue talking in this, but like I don't know, I don't know, like what is your thoughts and headspace around like and I feel like, because I feel like you've brought more people from your school to church or things like that, but like just like I don't know, I think it's impactful, and I don't know why, but something about like a lot of us, like we can know the knowledge, but then like something I realized, and I'll bring my Bible out just for representation, but like I want to live what's in this. I don't like, it's cool knowing it, but I want to live what's in it, and I don't get it right. I want to make that clear. But yeah, if you any thoughts on what I said, and then also I want to open up more. Sorry if I'm talking too much. I want to let your ideas flow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually only brought 3 people
That's all right.
from Lutheran over, and which was pretty funny because all of them were just like, oh yeah, let's go to Red Rocks one day. Like I know Jake and his little friend group all decided to do that one day. Would hope that I was at least a good reason why they kept it going and stayed going, and just seeing how God worked in our friendship from that, because before I didn't really talk to them or do a whole bunch like that. Now we're pretty close at school.
That's awesome.
And just through that small group. Yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything else to cover on.
Yeah. Just to kind of expand, you've now shared a little bit of your faith and your like how you've grown up in it, or how you've grown up, and then like the growth that you've seen. But is there anything like specific? And those who know Noah or me, I'm hoping to someday get him on the podcast. His name's Kenny. Oh yeah.
Man, Kenny.
Kenny, if you're watching this, get on here. and why I bring him up is maybe he taught you some things, but yeah, maybe my question is, what are some of the teachings? What are some things that you've learned now? Like you said, you've been really these past few years for you, your faith, in any way that speaks to you. But what are some lessons that you've learned for your faith? And if any of those lessons, how could they be applicable for maybe some of the people who are listening?
Ooh, well, took this leadership class this last semester at Lutheran High. And one of the books I read is called On Fire. And then one of the big pieces that I really took away from that is applicable to faith is that you can't merely just stay there and do what you want, merely just being in your comfort zone. You have to actually go out, break out of that comfort zone, go talk to people that you're not comfortable talking to, or just not even comfortable going up and just talking to people in general, and just going out, having those experiences through faith. And then another book that I read or am reading right now is called Love Does by Bob Goff. I know I sent that in the group chat a while ago. But one of the chapters that he had was to always say yes to opportunities that come up. Now, obviously, opportunities within reason. But the example that he gave was he got a call after he just pranked one of his friends pretty badly for one of their dates with his girl. And so he was thinking, yeah, this is gonna be a prank call. So he just kept going with it, kept saying yes. And he's a lawyer, so he thought that the country of Nigeria was gonna have him be their counselor, which was not entirely what it was. They came to New York, met him there, and turns out he was actually going to be a diplomat for them. And instead of backing down after he heard that, he just continued to say yes through all of it, and just what God allowed him to experience as part of him just being devoted to that. I feel like that's a big thing that we should do, that if God presents an opportunity to us, that we shouldn't cower. We should just say yes, have confidence that God's gonna do something miraculous with it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't want to say a lot because I don't want to take away from what you said, but saying yes to what God has for us, even though it's scary maybe, or like, I don't know, but I couldn't have said it any better than how you said it. Because there's power, and then like you were saying, that guy was able to look back and be like, God, like, because of what me just simply having this obedience, even though it probably was blind faith in some way, but because of this guy's faith, God was faithful to me, and like I was able to, like, God was just faithful through it all. That's cool. And I think that's encouraging to hear. So you guys who are listening or watching, that's awesome. Yes, sir. I don't know, like, I want to allow or any other opportunities. Is there any other things that you kind of wanted to speak on? Anything that, just kind of is coming up?
Good question. I guess apologetic.
All right, let's get it.
Some of the kids in student leadership are wanting to do
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah, so apologetics is just like providing a defense for what you believe in and why you believe in it.
Yeah.
Geez, where do I start with this? Because this is a big subject.
I don't want to cut you off, but like, I don't know. I was talking about this last night, and I just wanted to get, obviously, I love talking. Oh my goodness. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't cut you off and then, but all I wanted to say was, I feel compelled to say it, but this was David, and I don't know if you've met David. He's one of the guys over at Red Rocks. He's at youth every week, but he's one of the leaders of he's eighth grade boys, freshman boys. I don't even know. But even though he's not like some guy, even though he's not the youth leader for me, I've actually, in a way, he's taken me under his wing. But as far as, and I guess, I don't know, it might make more sense once I say it. But the only thing that I feel compelled to say is, at least, and obviously there is a part about defending truth, and there is something about, like obviously it says you'll know, like, people by their fruits. They'll know, like, you'll know if someone's of Christ by how they, by the fruits and by like who they are. But as far as like apologetics go, something that I feel compelled to share is like, and this is something we were talking about last night, and I feel like, I don't need to go in it. My bad. But just that, like, when you're sharing the gospel or when you're eventually evangelizing, it's more about winning hearts than arguments. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
All right, back to you. My bad.
Yeah, so I guess with apologetics, I'll lead in with what my theology teacher has been talking to us about this semester, about when we're struggling in our faith and how we can, I guess, just reason that believing in God is true and that the Bible is God's inspired word. But it's 3 steps. It's Pascal's wager, which is essentially just this chart showing that there's no downside to believing in God. Because if you're a Christian and you believe in God, then you're going to heaven. And if you're a Christian, believe in God, and there's a God, then you're going to heaven. And if there's not a God, then nothing happens. But if you're an atheist or someone who doesn't believe in Jesus, and there is a God, then you're going to hell. Or if there's not a God, then nothing happens. So just that piece shows that there's no downside to believing that God or Jesus is who he says he is. And then the next step is the walk on the beach, as he calls it. But it's where you're walking on the beach, you see a heart drawn in the sand. It says J heart S on it. Obviously, the waves did not just make it by chance, did not just come about by random chance, that there's a intelligent mind behind that design in the sand. So that piece just shows us that as we look out in the nature, like was preached on today.
Yeah, Doug preached on it.
Yeah.
It's like in Romans.
Yeah, so as we look out in creation and just even at the complexity of the human body and just everything, that it just is impossible that it just came about by chance, and all that. And then the third and final step is so now that we know that there's no downside to believing in God and that we can look out at nature and at people and see the complexity and perfection that is in, that there must be a God. The third step shows which religion is the true one. And kind of going back to what I said earlier with how you can have Islam and Buddhism without Allah or Buddha, but you can't have Christianity without Christ. It's kind of this like one in a dozen, diamond in the rough, I guess, religion, where it's just all the other religions, it's about, oh, what can you do to earn your way into heaven or be one with the universe and
Yeah.
all that. Where with Christianity, it's you can't do anything about whether you get into heaven or not, besides putting your faith in the one who paid it all for us, Jesus. Just from that, and then there's that a whole bunch of evidence that proves that the Bible is real compared to pretty much every other religion, whether it's the 20 or 30,000 Old Testament manuscripts and 20,000 New Testament manuscripts that we have, that are all like 99.98% accurate to the Bibles that we have today and to each other. to just how many people wrote it, which was 40 authors over a period of 1,500 years.
Yeah, that's
Which
crazy.
just
And then two different or where there was, it started in Hebrew and then, or Aramaic Hebrew and then Greek.
Yeah, it's Hebrew for the Old Testament, and then
Oh my goodness.
Greek and Aramaic for the Old
Oh,
or
okay.
New Testament.
Okay.
And
Sheesh.
66,000
Yeah.
cross references between them all over that time period, and to say that God was not in it at all is a ridiculous and stupid statement to say, if you will. Just because we have all that evidence and all that, and and then we can rebuild all but one verse of the New Testament from the first church fathers, direct quotes from them of the scriptures.
Wow.
What else? Right, and then we can know that what Jesus claimed to be, which was God, was real, as he fulfilled over 300 Old Testament prophecies. And there was a really good, I guess, illustration of how rare that would have had to been. It was if you were to fill the whole state of Texas in a foot deep of quarters, and you were to take one of those quarters, draw a red X on one of them, and throw it in there somewhere among all those, and you just had someone walk along blindfolded and just pick up one of those, that it'd be that one that you had the red X on. It's basically impossible that all those prophecies would have, or that Jesus isn't the Messiah. And then we also know with the Dead Sea Scrolls that were discovered in the mid to late 1900s, that they were all written before the New Testament, and that they were all set in stone before Jesus was born, which is also proves that he is God. So yeah, that's some apologetic stuff there as to why Bible is true and how crazy and miraculous God's handiwork has been in all of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is a big wow, because it's just awesome. And I don't know, all I can say is like, yes, sometimes those answers, like, even though they're factual, and like sometimes when we see faith, it has to be more about like feeling or this or that. But in a way, those factual thoughts at least make, like, in the moment of like, oh, do I really believe in this? The fact that and Noah actually knows a lot more than me. Is that some of those things I was laughing because I was genuinely surprised, and it was really cool to hear. And yeah, like those thoughts kind of like affirm your faith in a way. And I don't know, I know like in my life that God has been doing that lately.
it just shows that what you believe in, what you put your faith in, is actually true and not just something that you have to have blind faith for and ignore all the evidence that goes against it and all that.
And now you got some stuff. If someone's like, hey, why do you believe in your faith? And they're actually, I don't know the verse, but it does say that, like, be prepared for when anyone asks you about your hope. You'll have to like be able to give a good, you might know it, but yeah, give a good explanation for why you have hope in Christ.
It's in 1 Peter, I'm pretty sure. But it's be prepared to give a defense for the hope that you have in Jesus.
I might not be able to answer it exactly how Noah would be able to answer it, but I could totally be like, oh, let me tell you why. Let me tell you. But yeah, because God is hope, and it's interesting. He doesn't say defend this or that, but defend your hope. Because ultimately, that's what I think. And there's a lot of ways you can describe God, and there's actual, like, God is referred to many things in the Bible too. But it's interesting that at least in this part, it's like defend your hope, your hope in Christ. And because I think for the early church and now, for the people before the church and now, like we all want what? A sense of hope, a sense of like everything's gonna be okay. Or at least that's what I'd like to think. I know like even on my best days, I have hope for just even being in more connection now with me now knowing what Christ has done and being connected with me. I have hope of being in more connection. And I know for a fact that like if you want to reach out, you want to talk, come talk to me. I'll put Noah's stuff in the bio thing or whatever. But reach out to Noah. I guess I kind of end it with this, unless you got more. But like, either you have some more you want to talk about, or like, is there a last thing that you want to end us on? Like, if you had a way of like leaving the audience with the listeners and viewers, if there was something that you wanted to leave them with, like a last message.
Well, I'll touch on something that you were talking about earlier with hope.
Yeah.
Since, like you said, that we're all just searching for some hope. If you're gonna go out preach the gospel to anyone, a good way is to show the hope that we can all have in Jesus. Not, oh, you lied, so you broke the law, and since Jesus died for you, you have to accept him in order to go to heaven. But go at it from the hope approach, because people who are atheistic or agnostic or anything like that, they're not gonna either believe in sin or just kind of brush off you as trying to condemn them. But if you go from that hope side, where I know, especially in today's age, where there's a lot of hopelessness and a lot of people, that going from there would impact a lot of people more than trying to show what they did wrong and how Christ redeems them through that. There's life, death, and resurrection.
Yeah.
And then don't really have much else to say besides that.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Noah. Thank you. I know I appreciate you, and my hope is that whoever's listening, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. And God's working through you, and hopefully Noah's message today kind of reached out to you guys, and that it made you guys think a little bit. But yeah, I love you guys. Love you, Noah. Thank you so much. And that's the episode, the Brick House Podcast. Let's go. See you guys next week. Bye.